How is it going? We're back with episode 52 of CueBall's Rambles. Today, we have a guest. But first, before we get into this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to my channel, all that YouTube bollocks. I think, as you know, that thing I always watch. Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. So, now with the introduction. So, he's a former Celtic wrestling managing director. Ooh, we're going to get into that. So, and then we fast forward into the future, and now he's a gaming enthusiast, which is part of the popular gaming group, Console Yourself. Like the pun.
Yeah, we're officially the 2087th most popular middle-aged video gaming channel.
that's something. That's something.
I'm joking. I have no idea.
That you are now. You said it. He's also a filmmaker, and he is also currently raising money for the charity Mental Health UK. Got that right. And as I give you the one, the only, Jonathan Lloyd James.
Thank you. That's it.
The power of editing. The power of editing. We have the pyrotechnics.
Yeah. That was a better introduction than I used to get in Celtic.
It's because I bother. It's good. You see, I bother. I like to hype people up when they come on. So we've never met before.
No, we haven't.
But because of the power of social media and mutual friends on Facebook and all that, we are now here.
Well,
so, I mean, nice to meet you.
Chris Rico's been putting you over like crazy to me. It's like, for some reason, Chris likes to actually watch me on these things. He's like, "Oh, you've got to get on CueBall's Bearded Rambles," and so he's been talking about this for a while. Of course, I've watched the show quite a few times. I watched you did one with Bassy, didn't you? Papa Smurf. I've watched that one. There's been a few others, even people who I don't even know really. So yeah, it's nice to be here. Hopefully, at some point, getting one of those beers that you're currently sponsored by. See, I snuck that in there for you.
Yeah. Well, I was going to put that in at the end, but now that you've mentioned that, so if anybody enjoys an alcoholic beverage in their spare time and they would like to have a drink, obviously, and head over to berryglenbrewery.co.uk, buy their stuff, and whilst you're at it, type in the promo code Rambles for a cheeky 10% off your orders. Boom.
You know, I'm gonna do that tonight. My other half is a big beer fan, so I'm gonna give that a go. I'll give it a little surprise with that, I think.
Their stuff is awesome, honestly. They have a load of different flavors. They have coffee flavored ales. Their brand new one is jalapeno and ginger. It doesn't sound good, but honestly, I'm not a fan of ginger, and that's one of my favorites, in all fairness. But
au contraire, for me, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, honestly, Troy, I would, but like I said, Rambles 10% off. Do it. So anyway, let's get into the ramble, shall we?
Yes.
So Jonathan, or however you spell your name and say your name.
I don't mind, mate. I got no airs and graces, buddy.
So, as always, for the dozens and dozens watching at home, cheesy. Oh why did you get into the wrestling business all them years ago?
Well, do you know what? I thought it'd be quite interesting to because a lot of the podcasts that I've seen, whether it's sort of like Cayman's or Bassie's or whatever, they all kind of interestingly start in the same way, and it normally kind of starts with I was in school, I was getting bullied, and then in the case of Bassie and Cayman, of course, they ended up kicking their ass. Me, on the other hand, not so much, but I took solace in two things: video gaming and professional wrestling. In terms of professional wrestling, I'd never heard of it until I hit sort of 11 years old. Okay. And they had a tape. So I'm showing my age here, everybody. They had a VHS tape lending system down in one of the classes, and my mate went to me, "Oh, have you ever watched wrestling?" I was like, "I have no idea what that is." And they're like, "Oh, they got tape. You can go and lend tapes." And basically, they must have been like literally like taping them off Sky Sports, like the pay-per-views and stuff like that. So they had Royal Rumble '92, and I think it would have been WrestleMania 8. Was it WrestleMania 8 with Bret Hart and Roddy Piper?
It might be we're going to get somebody commenting on that, going, "Yeah, that was."
Yeah.
Or, no.
Please don't hang me. Right, I'm a wrestler. I've taken share shots to the head. I can't remember anything. So yeah, Royal Rumble. That Royal Rumble first with the new foundation. Loved that. Loved those guys. So big into Owen Hart and the Anvil. So I was pretty much in after that. But Ric Flair's Royal Rumble victory, still to this day, in my opinion, the greatest Royal Rumble there ever was. And you couldn't help but being after that. You know, it was just oh, that was the other one. Roddy Piper versus the Mountie, and Roddy Piper kicked his ass and won the Intercontinental Championship. And from that day forward, Roddy was my man, and I will never ever forgive Bret Hart for taking that belt off him. Never in my. Still not gotten over it today.
That's been like me with the streak. You know, in my opinion, because I haven't watched WrestleMania 30.
Yeah,
the streak never ended. It was just, you know, I don't believe in that stuff. Brock Lesnar never ended it. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you haven't seen it, then why?
I was so upset on the night. I remember it as if it was clear as yesterday. Jumped out of my chair in one motion and just yelled the F word as loud as I possibly could. It's like, how can you do that with Brock Lesnar? You know, not even a guy who's gonna, you know, who you're gonna make. And then I know you're probably not gonna like me saying this. What happened from kind of there forward, where you know, with him stuffing John Cena and the way that they built him up from that point forward. Whilst it's a shame it wasn't somebody who would have a little bit of longevity and be there for a while, they did a hell of a job with him.
Yeah, it's true.
They literally properly make him. Not that he wasn't made before, but he was next level once they've done that. And it just goes to show sometimes you do question what Vince McMahon does, and then afterwards you're like, okay, fair play. You didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, definitely. So that was how and why you got into wrestling. So obviously you was a big part of Celtic wrestling.
Yes.
And, you know, during the time of Celtic wrestling, there was a faction that you formed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I'm not very familiar with the Celtic wrestling history. You know.
Yeah, fine.
And so the system versus Celtic wrestling, how did that start? Why? What was going through your head? Was you just like, hey, I'm going to start a faction. I want to dominate Celtic wrestling. I want to take over. You know, what was happening there?
Well, I was ring announcing for Pro Power Wrestling, which I'd probably call Welsh Wrestling now, which was run by Alan Ravenhill. And obviously, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I'd been to the FWA Academy in Portsmouth, and I'd done some stuff some training stuff down there. But I was always acutely aware, because I'm not the biggest guy in the world, and Alan is very much a fan of the big old school bruiser boys, that it was unlikely that I would ever get my debut in Pro Power Wrestling. At the same time, Celtic started running, and there was kind of a feud between both sides, which was quite entertaining. I'd say people were ripping down other people's posters in certain areas and all that, all that old school nonsense that was going on. And anyone who thought I took part in any of that on Alan's behalf, I wasn't involved in any way, shape, or form. I don't think Alan needed assistance on those kind of things. But we were at an event in, was it Weston-super-Mare, I think? It's somewhere down in that kind of region. It was one that the Gangster faced Alex Shane, and Mick Foley was the special guest referee. It's so funny because he so couldn't be asked. He didn't even leave the ring when it was Falls Count anywhere. They all bugger off into the crowd having this massive brawl, and Mick Foley's just sort of like stood in the ring, just can't be bothered following them. It's like, well, the fall's not taking place out there then, is it?
Killed a gimmick.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure how Cayman was going to react to it, considering, you know, I was an Alan Ravenhill guy. And I said, look, you know, I'd like to come in and do something. And Cayman was just like, yeah, sounds good, mate. That was the end of the conversation. Like, yeah, that would have, if I'd said the same thing to Alan Ravenhill, he would have been like, you know, either no, or there would have to have been a long-winded conversation about what my long-term plan was for this whole thing. With Cayman, it's just like, yeah, man, just just go ahead and do it. So I came in as the general manager, and I did my first speech, and I crapped my pants, and delivered the poorest speech that there's probably ever been in Celtic wrestling, because I delivered something that was just so long and so hard to memorize, and the nerves are going and all that kind of thing. Your heart's beating. You know, from your first match, when you had your first match when you're wrestling, there's no your heart feels like it's going to jump out. So I did that, and I walked backstage, and then we did a segment later on where I got beat up, and it was I've always believed in strong heels. When Triple H was doing his thing, I know it, in a lot of occasions Triple H went on for way longer than what was required. But I believe in really, really strong heels, because when the faces beat them, it means something.
Yeah, I agree.
We didn't really have any kind of cohesion on that side of things. So being a guy who writes a lot, and I did write a lot back then, before I thought there was any possibility of me ever being in wrestling, I wrote for an EFED. I don't know whether you've ever heard of one of those kind of things.
No.
But it used to be as simple as you would create a character and you would write as that character,
right?
And then people would judge as to which person had written the best promos for the week.
Yeah.
And then whoever had written the best promos won the match. Simple as that.
Okay.
And the matches would go out every weekend. And in that, there was a faction called the System. And I always thought, what a great name it is. And I'd already come up with the catchphrase within the EFED: "You just can't beat the system," which is I love that catchphrase even to this day. It's just so good. So I was just like, I want to bring it in, and that was the nucleus for the system. But it was then finding the pieces of the puzzle to come in, and there were a lot of false storms, because I was, and still to this day am, a big Mad Dog Max fan.
Right. Understandable.
Has Mad Dog been on yet?
No, not yet. No.
Get that man on. Mad Dog, you gotta get on here, mate. He's a genius, and he's definitely got a story to tell.
And he has.
But Mad Dog sadly wasn't up for it. Chris Recall was.
Name dropping.
Yeah, got to name drop Chris. We'll get back to Chris Recall and my other the other guy, Tyler Brown. I've got a funny story that I have to tell.
All right. All right.
Tyler was panicked about the fact that I was on Cayman's podcast, because he was worried that I tell stories and I didn't tell a story. So now it's only fair that I tell a story.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Let's just do it.
We'll get back to Tyler in a minute. But of course, the first person in the group was Thunderbolt Tommy Dean.
Yeah.
Many of you may know him as Warren, who my biggest headache to this very day.
Mean Tommy Dean.
Mean Tommy Dean. It's such a funny thing, because me and him argue like cat and dog nowadays, to the point where unfortunately I had to end up blocking him recently, because I thought I was going to get heat from the people who I work with. But I always love the guy. I will always love the guy, as much as it drives me insane. But he probably doesn't realize how many people in the real world come up to me and goes, "Who's that arsehole on your Facebook saying all that stuff?"
Yeah.
He's just he is mad, but I love the dude. He's not. I don't think his view of the system is probably as beautiful as the rest of ours. But I thought he was great for us. He was the sort of like bruiser, nasty, hard man, really good. Chris Recall, just a sublime worker. I've got to make up for that quiz that I lost, Chris. I'll just spend my time picking you up now. But Chris, it's a real weird one, because when you watch him as a performer, you think he's this massive, outgoing, charismatic guy. And then, you know, behind the scenes, he's just quite a humble, nice fella. But he just had so much talent. You know, to this day, he can bump as good as anyone I think I've ever seen it. You know, even in regular pro wrestling, you know, the pro wrestling you watch on TV, I've never seen any. Well, not that I've never seen anyone can bump like him, but he's up there. He's up there with the very best. Tyler, who I think, right, not that I didn't want him in, but I thought that the gimmick that he had as the Mexican was, and I say this all the time, and so many other people do, it was such a good gimmick. It was so money. It reminds me a little bit of Orange Cassidy.
Right, yeah.
You know, he was getting those kind of reactions because it was just funny and cool, and he didn't need to do a lot. He wouldn't need to take any bumps. But that's not who Tyler Brown is. Tyler Brown wants hard hitting, jumping off the top rope, fast paced kind of stuff. Yeah. So whilst he had an amazing gimmick that he could deliver tremendously, it wasn't what was inside. Yeah. So that's why, you know, he turned heel. He joined he joined the system as well. So we had at that point the nucleus of the people who we could go forward and do stuff with. And one of my earliest favorite moments, I think, is there's the guy who was a champion at the time, who's one of those names will not be mentioned.
Okay.
Shall we say? He was in a title match with, I think, Rico, and the end of the match was we rushed the ring and we gave him a kicking, and we're there just pounding on this guy, all three of us, and he's like, "Lighten up, lads." And Chris goes, "You're the champion, take it."
Nice.
So that's where it began, and it was all about us doing the traditional heel thing. You know, we'd come out, we did a great thing where we would introduce pretty much the whole of the night, so everyone who was watching knew exactly where they were.
Yeah.
We do some nasty, evil stuff. People would dislike us greatly, which is another lost art. Like, heels actually like staying heels and not trying to look cool while they do it.
Yeah.
And then you know, 9 times out of 10, the good guys would beat us at the end of the night, and all the punters would go home happy, and it worked. You know, yeah. We were having, in a very, very short period of time, we had hundreds and hundreds of people turning up to, you know, the Studio Bar and Canton on a regular basis. And interestingly enough, I think I don't know what the attendance figures for all the shows are, but I think there was a noticeable downturn when the system disbanded.
Okay.
Because I think people just like to see us get our asses handed to us, which happened a lot.
So why did the system disband then? What happened there?
I think, and I've said it before, I think in that time there were a lot of people in a lot of ears.
Right.
We were on the show a lot. Probably on the show too much, if I'm being brutally honest.
Okay.
Sometimes we'd be on the show, you know, three odd times. I mean, if we've got different members having different matches, yeah, we would normally accompany each other and do shenanigans. And maybe it was a bit overkill, but I still think there was a lot more legs, and we didn't need to end when we did. I think a face turn could have been quite interesting as well. It's a shame we didn't go down that route. I've always talked about, you know, the potential of the system versus the dynasty, and I know there was quite a bit of distance between that. But I think if we'd had a little bit of long-term planning, that's something that probably could have worked quite well. I don't think it had run its course, and I think people realised it was a mistake once it was done, because you know, the EU was created after that, which was like another faction,
right?
And it was pretty much, it was me, Tommy Dean, Steve Barter, who was the workman, and oh god, there's a fourth party, and I'm going to feel really guilty because I've forgotten who it was. But it was like, it was essentially the system light, for no apparent reason. So it's a shame. It's a shame it ended when it did. We went out with a bang, though. I mean, the last show that we did, which was like I beat Sweet Sugar, Chris lost to Cayman. What was the other one? Tyler must have lost us. No, not Tyler. Warren must have lost to somebody. But yeah, that was a. Oh no, that was it. Because I think the reason I don't remember is because I think it was Lyndon Ham, from Scouts and Ham.
Yeah.
I think he possibly was deputising for Tommy Dean for some reason, and I think he took the loss. So I suppose if I, retrospectively, I could have cried wolf at the fact that the system weren't actually beaten, etc., etc. But we all went our separate ways after that, and everyone did well, separately anyway, I suppose. So you can't complain too much.
Is there any chance that the system could come back?
I keep pushing for it. My biggest, I have, unfortunately, three rather large problems. Number one, Tommy Dean don't want nothing to do with us because, like I say, he views, Tommy listens to the wrong people a lot. So at some point, people convinced him that his time in Celtic and the system was a bad thing and he wasn't any good, and the stuff that he's done subsequently is much better. And it is much better. I'm not going to say it's not much better, but he still had the nucleus of really good stuff back then. And my argument would be, okay, so you're better now. You could have been better within the system now. Prove it.
Yeah.
Come and show what the system could have been.
Yeah.
Tyler is Tyler Brown. He's I think again, he's gotten, from what I understand anyway, he's got no real drive to give it another bash. I know Tyler was a lot older than us, but him at 40 would run rings around me at 18. He's just a massive physical specimen, and I'm sure he probably still is to this day. I still think he could do a one-off thing. And then with Chris Recall, someone who probably should have come back a long time ago, because wrestling is worse off for not having somebody of his talent in it. You look at him now and he's just a physical specimen, and you're there thinking, if you can do what you did back then, but with the way you look now, there should be a lot of worried people out there. You're the kind of person who could go on to, say, a Pro Wrestling Carnage event and destroy people, and no one would blink an eyelid at it, and you could be one of the best on the roster if you decided to. It's only up to Chris whether he believes that he wants to do it. He should do it. He is a tremendous talent. If he does come back, the people in Pro Wrestling Carnage, for example, should be incredibly concerned, because I believe he may well beat the crap out of all of them. But it's up to him. It's the old saying is, everybody's their own limit. Me, I'll come back tomorrow. I do this. I definitely do one last match tomorrow if it was the right thing.
Yeah, well, never say never in wrestling. That's what I've always said in wrestling: never say never.
Yeah.
So, we spoke about your time in wrestling. So, as of right now, what are your views on wrestling as a whole, like modern day wrestling?
Honestly, it drives me up the wall. It's like two different points at the moment. So you've got the WWE, which is like a characterless void at the moment. The problem being is they've got so many people who invest in them. They're sponsored by so many people and it's not even the PG product thing. It's gone past PG product now. Yeah. It's now on to what could somebody possibly say that may lose us all this sponsorship and all this money.
Yeah.
And because they have got all this sponsorship and all this money, they are pretty much unsinkable. So they don't really have to do anything. So they can just sit there and just watch the wrestling interest just get less and less and less over time. Because, by the time the lights are turned off on the WWE, Vince will be long gone anyway.
Yeah.
So, he's just going to sit there and keep taking the money. And I can't really blame him for that. But, I know the fans not being there is a problem. But I just find it just deathly dull to watch. And then on the other side of things, you've got AEW. They're going to be the saviors. They're going to be the ones that show us how pro wrestling is going to be done. And they're all full of geeks. They're all full of geeks. And they just, if I was told that if wrestlers were allowed to go away and do their thing and speak their mind and all that kind of thing, then it was going to be great. And these guys apparently have got the creative freedom to do what they want.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. And Kenny Omega as champion, I really wanted to like that guy. I did so much about him in Japan and these 6-star matches, and I was looking forward to seeing what he was going to be like in an American setting with all these guys.
Yeah.
And the cleaner, what kind of a nickname's that? So I may beat you, but I may come and dust your brass works in your house. Like, what are you talking about? You're the cleaner. And they get guys like Rusev, and they come in, and he's a monster killer from Bulgaria who drove into WrestleMania on a tank.
Yeah.
And could have been a superstar, but Vince McMahon kicked the legs out from underneath him. He could have been this big deal. So he comes in there, and he's the best man. And you're like, what's that even mean? And then he's hanging out with this dork, this little fella. And and he's on Twitch. It's like, you're supposed to be a killer heel.
Yeah.
You're playing video games on Twitch. I can go and play video games on Twitch. I'm not a killer heel. I'm not a 300-pound murdering machine. That's something that I do. It's not something that you go and do. People talk about kayfabe being dead, but that's only like relevant to a certain degree, because if you're not putting yourself out in the public eye in a way that people think to, say you CueBall, right? You're currently a really nasty killer heel, and you go out and you're on Twitch, and there's everyone there going, "Oh, he's a lovely fella, isn't he?" Right?
That's what they do on here now. Right.
But the fact of the matter is, if you don't do that, right? If you leave that area of yourself a question mark, then there's always that thing that go, "Oh, is that actually how he is though?" Like, "Oh, I bet backstage he's a right bastard," But they haven't got that, because they're seeing these guys 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, having a packet of Chewits with each other and high-fiving themselves and playing, I don't know, Sonic 3D Blast or something. And it's just not how it's meant to go. And the worst thing about it, right? The worst thing about it is when they get somebody, right, who is coming within touching distance of getting over, they kick the legs out from under him, and they don't even know that they've done it.
Yeah.
So they had who's the cowboy fella who does the buckshot lariat?
Adam Page, is that right?
Adam Page, yeah. So I was watching, especially when Chris Jericho was champion, I was watching a fair bit of AEW. Yeah. Oh, this is going quite well. And you saw Adam Page, and I thought to myself, now this looks like a guy who could do something. This looks like something behind. And he's going all aloof, and he's drinking his whiskey in the bars, and his mates don't know whether he's going to turn up or not, because he's just that kind of super cool geezer. And he looks like a man. He's got the physics of a man. He's got a wicked finishing move that takes people's heads off. And they're trying to turn him heel by having him turn on all these geeks. And all of a sudden, he starts getting over. And they think to themselves, crap, we're going to have to turn him face. I know what we'll do. We'll take away absolutely everything that's made him get to this point. So before I even know it, they work out this storyline where he wants to become friends with the Revival, right? But the Revival were leading him on. So he screws over the Young Bucks, right? And then they have a promo in the ring, and the Revival basically tell him that he's a geek and leave the ring. The Young Bucks leave the ring, and there's him just standing in the ring like a flipping donut, And you're looking and thinking, that's dead. That opportunity that you had to actually legitimately get somebody over, you've made him look like an absolute idiot. And I'm sure there are plenty more examples if I digged into it so much. And so if AEW are going to actually do something, right, they need to understand the reason why people like me and people like you got into professional wrestling. And that is because we saw superhero men with a great promo and a great character and kicking each other's ass. And none of this fluffy, bloody nonsense, and stop using ridiculous finishing moves and then having people kick out of it. I can't stand it. It drives me up the wall. Like, spinning tombstone flippy pile drivers kill somebody. They should be in the hospital the next day. They shouldn't be kicking out of them on regular TV. They probably do it on dark,
So here's a question for yourself and for the people watching, a bit of interaction going. So what would you say, and people watching, what would you say is the most overused move? In my opinion, it's either the super kick, because that super kick is dead now. It used to be something, and the Canadian Destroyer or Code Red or whatever you want to call it. Those are the two moves to me.
I tell you how ineffective the Canadian Destroyer is now. I think I may have mentioned it on Cayman's show the one time. I was watching AEW, and somehow, and the physics of this is ridiculous anyway, because I mean the physics of a Canadian Destroyer is ridiculous to start with, but Jungle Boy managed to get one of the Lucha Brothers to hit a Canadian Destroyer on the other, and then they kick out of that, and it's like, what on earth's the point of all this?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Super kick, like you say, that is dead in the water. The only person who can do it and still get legitimate reaction from it is Shawn Michaels, for the same reason that Jake the Snake Roberts can still hit a DDT and everyone goes, "Ooh, it's the Jake the Snake." It's not the regular DDT; it's the Jake the Snake Roberts DDT. But yeah, you couldn't use super kick as a finisher. Well, you can, but I think people would be quite surprised that it didn't involve a kick out. No, that side of things does my head in. It doesn't need to be done. There was enough regular moves when I was, in the 90s, that you don't need to start turning finishers into transition moves. You don't need to do it.
Yeah, it's
like dives. Dives do my head in. It's like I remember on during the 90s, the dives started coming in.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, well, that's a bit exciting, isn't it? And then by the time late 2000s are going on, a guy might hit 3 repetitive dives.
Yeah.
And you're there thinking, well, it can't hurt that much because, he got up after the first 2. So every other dive that's on the show is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy. Wrestling is just crazy. It makes no sense anymore, but we still love it for some reason. We still love it.
I still watch it somehow. Although I do spend more time watching people talk about wrestling than I ever do actually watching wrestling nowadays.
You watch this? I mean,
yeah.
Why would nobody know? It doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm going to say. I can't remember. We spoke about your wrestling. We spoke about that. All sounds awesome. I love the storyline between the System versus Celtic wrestling. Hopefully, it's going to come back. Who knows?
I got to tell you that Tyler Brown story.
Let's go.
I have to do that, right? So, just to set the scene, right? I have at the time one of the most grumpiest girlfriends that you will ever meet in your entire life. She was a lawyer, and behind closed doors, very fun. Out in any other form, she was a lawyer, and she didn't really get on with anybody who I knew whatsoever. But I thought it would be a good idea to kind of, try and get her involved with some of the ladies that went to the wrestling scene, and maybe she can make a few friends. That will make it easier. And all that.
Yeah.
So we decide to have a triple date. So it's it's Chris Recall and a girl called Molly, who you probably all know. He subsequently married. That was very much in the embryonic stage.
Right.
Those of you who know Molly, you'll know full well that Chris Recall's been punching for every moment that he ever met her. She's lovely, lovely girl. And then it was Tyler Brown. I think the girl he was with was called Tanya, who again, I quite liked her, but she had a drink in her. And as the night goes on, so Chris is trying to sort of like work his magic with Molly, and so I'm outside. I can't remember why I'm outside, but the Tyler and his now ex, they're arguing with each other, and it's what it's like. Relationships, you have spats. You hopefully don't do it while you're drunk and out on the street, but you do.
No.
I couldn't credit it. Right? Have you met Tyler?
No. I know the name from Celtic, but yeah,
he is a big dude, not a tall dude, but he is a big dude. Like, that guy's got muscles on his muscles.
Right.
And this little dweeb, all of a sudden starts trying to interject himself and then starts outrightly mocking him. Right. And I'm there thinking, he's going to get killed. Like, Tyler's going to kill him. So, the funniest thing ever, I don't know where Tyler finds an umbrella from like some rubbish that's lying nearby us. Right. And he just starts beating this kid up the road with an umbrella on his ass. So this kid's jumping up in the air as Tyler's beating. So I start panicking. So for some reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to go and get Recall to try and calm him down. So Recall to this day keeps going, I remember the day that you cock blocked me and Molly. So rather than helping the situation, Recall comes charging out of the pub and starts chasing after this kid, and then does a proper 360 spill onto the floor. So there's Tyler, who's exhausted, Recall flat out on the floor, and this kid running up the road. And I just turn back and look at my girlfriend going, this ain't going to happen again, is it?
Welcome to wrestling. Oh, man. Gee.
So funny.
And that's how the system formed, actually. That's the real story, how the system formed.
Yeah.
We
could have used umbrellas as weapons. We'll have to do, if we ever come back, we'll beat someone up with an umbrella.
Yeah, sounds good. So that's the wrestling out of the way. The story of Tyler Brown and Chris Recall, awesome. I bet you might get a bit of shit from that. So let's speak about your video gaming career with Console Yourself. So how did that happen? Obviously you've done your wrestling. I think you've always been like a game fanatic kind of thing. It sounds like anyway. So where did the enjoyment for gaming come? Well,
I was, like I say, video gaming was a solace away from my childhood. I'm not saying it's the most miserable childhood that anyone's ever had, but it had its moments, shall we say?
Yeah.
First, I had an Atari 2600 in the early days. Again, letting you guys know exactly how old I am. And stuff like Centipede, Pac-Man, and all that kind of thing. I was then bought a Amstrad PCW, not a PC, a PCW, and I had a green screen, and I could code on it. So I started coding probably from the age of 7, adding sort of like levels to games and things like that. Okay. So I think that's kind of how the interest came. But as every console came out, I would inevitably, particularly on the Nintendo side of things, I would inevitably pick up the next one that comes in line. I own every Nintendo console that's ever existed apart from the Virtual Boy, and some peripherals that people probably haven't even seen in their life.
Yeah.
But, as it came up recently, obviously COVID hit, and for ages I'd always thought about, wouldn't it be really cool at the age that I'm at to go back to video games in the past and just try and see whether I can beat them or not. And I made 6 videos because, like you say, I'm a filmmaker, and I called it "I May Be Crap at Video Games." And yeah, went back to these games that gave me a lot of hassle when I was a kid, and just tried one by one to try and get through them. Some with some success, some with dismal levels of failure. But I put them out. They were very well received. I had a friend called Andy that I've known since sort of like the late 2000s. He's into his gaming. He actually runs our official Twitch channel, and he will always be on there playing Sea of Thieves or some retro related stuff. And Gareth Moore, who I met when I lived up in London, he was part of London Comedy Writers. So I love that guy, and as much as I can do stuff with him, I always will.
Yeah.
And we decided, well, let's see what we can do. And my thoughts at the time was, let's see if we can get out something every month. And Gareth was like, oh, let's do something every week. And I think, oh God, I wasn't like, I wasn't really like looking into it that deeply. And we've done one every week for pretty much since September. And it's interesting that we are sat here on episode 52 of CueBall's Bearded Rambles, because today's release was our 50-second video.
Wow. Good coincidence, that is.
Almost like
this wasn't planned. This wasn't planned at all. This has happened because I had to drop out, and then Chris Recall opted you in. So
yes.
So, yeah. No, that's a coincidence. Well, yeah, it's not a coincidence, is it? That's
But it's been better even than just obviously making the videos, because I'm not going to sit here and say that our videos are mega successful, And you've had this, I know, because I've seen you talk about your videos and that kind of thing, and it's difficult going, isn't it? When you start something off, it's difficult going, and you try it, But I think the essential thing is, as long as you're enjoying yourself, that is the key and important thing. And what aside from obviously doing the videos and putting them out there and having people enjoy them, the greatest thing about it's been is me, Andy, and Gareth pretty much talk to each other every day, talk about stuff to do with video games every day, and pretty much every Sunday, although it's been a little bit dodgy with late because Andy lost his internet connection for a while. We've been meeting up, going on Sea of Thieves, going through the 7 seas, and having 7-year-olds kick shit out of us.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
That sounded awful, but yeah, I didn't mean it in that way, actually. But no, that's cool. I think video gaming, like watching people play video games, I think that's become such a massive thing nowadays in this like modern society kind of thing. So you never know, you could be onto something. And what you said about, continuously putting content out, and, it can be bad sometimes. You just got to keep going, and you got to enjoy it, because, like when I've been doing this, I've had to have breaks because sometimes it can just get too much.
Yeah.
And it can be disheartening sometimes. You think you've really, really put out a really good product, and then it's like, oh, I've only had about 20 views. And I was like, oh, man.
Mate, there's a video on the channel currently, and it's called "Would You Want to Live There?" So that the premise is that I green screen myself into a game and then talk about it like it's a travel show. Right. So Gareth did the first one, and it was on Oblivion, and it did like 140 views, and I was like, oh, that's really good. Oh, we really need to do a follow-up on that. And months passed. I was like, no, I'm going to get around to do it. I'm going to do the follow-up. So I did mine on Final Fantasy 15, and no joke, it took me days, like green screening myself in various positions and getting all the various footage together that I wanted, and putting it all together and putting out this video. And you sort of like exhaustedly come back into the chair. Oh, I've finally done it. I finally got it out there. 17 views. And you're like, great.
It's all about building yourself up, though, isn't it? You got to do stuff, like certain things people might enjoy. Like probably being a case where people haven't enjoyed a certain rambles, so I won't get many views. But then there'd be ones where people really enjoy it, and they, it's just motivating yourself and just trying to push past that negativity. Like, oh, it's just a one-off. You just need to carry on doing it, and So my question to you is about the gaming then. So if anybody was interested in starting their own gaming channel on Twitch and all that, what would you recommend they do first to get themselves going?
Do not do it alone. I genuinely, I do not know, aside from just the the general, talking to people and that kind of thing. I do not know what I would do without Gareth and Andy. because you know you got Andy there doing. I don't enjoy Twitch. I tried it. I didn't get on with it. Andy loves it. Great, do the Twitch. Andy loves Twitter. Great, do the Twitter. You know, and you know, Gareth, you know, puts together his own videos, which means I don't have to physically put something out every week. You know, he like the other week he came, oh, I've done 3. Oh, bloody hell, awesome. You know, that saves me a lot of time. If I didn't have those guys there, I'm not sure it would have been anything more than what it is. So get a team, try and be, you know, everyone's going to have their own ideas. Try and be as flexible as you like. Someone's going to have bad ideas. Somebody's going to have good ideas. And your idea, I think that's the most difficult thing. Sometimes you got to accept that your idea actually wasn't any good.
Right. Yeah.
That is a really difficult, bitter pill to swallow, because everyone thinks their ideas are great, and then you do something, you're like, didn't really work, did it?
It's always them, the ones that you think isn't going to work that tends to work, if that makes sense. I never thought Rambles was going to work. I don't know, it's a one-off one evening. I thought, let's just get somebody on and have a chat with them and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Reason people enjoy it, I don't know why. You know, there's a load of people doing it, but for some reason they enjoy listening to me and the people I have on. But yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, so how expensive is it to start up? I mean, you know, you're going to need a console or a PC, because a lot of people do it through PC, don't they? Because you get a better.
They do. So I suppose with retro stuff, that's easier. It all depends, and I haven't spent half as much as a lot of people, as you can see from my background.
Look at my background.
I know.
It's just a pull-up banner. That's it, and a wardrobe.
You can go on Twitch and swear to God, some of the stuff that they've got set up on there is tremendous. Yeah. You can sometimes be quite surprised at how expensive it can be. So like right now, I'm not speaking to you through the computer microphone. I've got, you know, this little gimmick by here. The webcam that I'm using is not the webcam that came with the computer. It's actually got a lighting equipment attached to it and all that kind of thing. You know, green screen. My camera, but to be fair, it was bought for film. The proper camera that I use is 10 grand. You know, when it was bought for new.
I need to bring the ambulance. Jesus Christ!
My sound recording equipment, my proper sound recording equipment, is £1,000. You know, this hasn't happened sort of like over. You know, I didn't just wake up in the morning and spend 20 grand on equipment and that was the end of it. I've basically acquired bits over a long extended period of time. So, but like you say, as long as you're enjoying it, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, who cares? I want it to look the best. I go into everything thinking that I want to make it the best that I physically can. And that doesn't matter whether it's the filming, the wrestling, the gaming, or even just my day job, you know. If I was a toilet cleaner, so I'm not wanting to nick Kenny Omega's gimmick, but if I was a toilet cleaner, I would go out there with the premise of being the best goddamn toilet cleaner you have ever seen in your life, and that's just how I function. So I want everything we do to get better and better, and it will over time. Just keep buying stuff, pick up some lighting, get lighting equipment first. Because I tell you what, decent lighting equipment will make your image look better than you know, even a crappy webcam.
Yeah, it's true. I got my light here.
Yep.
You know, I'm still getting used to it with the you know, got to get the right lighting and like that. So.
It's hard, especially in a enclosed space. Did you say you're in a closet?
I am currently in my bedroom in the corner. Acting like feeling like a naughty boy, must admit, but there we go.
But you know, depending on how much space you've got, is going to make. Sorry, I'm getting really nerdy on the.
No, that's all good. This is why it's called Rambles. Go ahead.
You know, having space when you're doing lighting is very difficult, because when you start doing stuff like green screen, so like the image that you've got currently would be absolutely fine. But the moment you want to do that in terms of green screen, the first thing I'm going to say to you is that shadow that's in the background directly behind you is going to play absolute murder with your software. So you're going to have to light yourself from a variety of different angles to make it work. Right. And it's all a learning process. and sometimes the software that you have with your editing suite, there may be better software out there which will make your life an awful lot easier. That's something else that I've found out. So sometimes it's worth buying plugins just to take the pain out of the experience. There we go. I'll leave that there.
Well, that's all good. Honestly, no, it's all good. So your YouTube channel and your mates is called Console Yourself. It is on YouTube. Like I said, I will pop the channel in the description below, so for anybody who wants to check them out,
please do. We need the views.
They need the views, damn it. They need the subscribes.
Yeah.
Sorry, like I do. Right, filmmaking then. You have been doing filmmaking. I know it's something you wanted to actually speak about on here. So let's talk about the filmmaking then. Let's hear about it.
So, I mean, when I finished in wrestling, which was back in 2009, it became acutely important to me that I wanted some kind of creativity to continue. I knew it wasn't going to be wrestling. I knew I wasn't going to make it as a wrestler, because everyone from my generation who made it were all like 6'5", and that's not me. So so sometimes you have to accept that maybe. And it's great now with the UK boys, with what they're doing, because you're seeing regular sized people going in there and doing a job. So it's a shame I wasn't born 10 years later. You never know where it could have, what could have happened. But I'm proud of every single one of them. But I wanted to stay involved in creativity, so I joined an acting class. And it's the way that my brain works is, and you can ask the Pro Wrestling Carnage guys about me, because they're like, "Oh, we're starting a promotion. Oh, would you mind being a managing director?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'll do that. We could do this. We could get you on Amazon Prime. We could do that." And you could sort of like, you can almost visually see their sort of like faces going, "Oh, Jesus Christ,"
Yeah.
It's the way that I operate. I do everything that I possibly can to the best of my ability, very intensely. And so we did these acting classes, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice, but what's the next step from here?" So I wrote, directed, shot, and produced a 30-minute sitcom called Fairy Dust, which is one of the most exhausting things that I've ever done. Also, it looks absolute crap.
Right.
But it was my first thing, and not understanding how ridiculous it would be to do all of those roles. I went and did it, and I was there thinking, well, that's really good, but how do I reach the next step? So I searched for a master's in film just to see what was out there, and one of the classes was film production. Bearing in mind this was around like November, December time, which is not normally when I'm thinking, maybe I can start something in September.
Right.
And Op Pup's a master's in film production and business management, and it's starting next month. I was like, okay,
yeah, got to commit.
That seems like a bit fate-ish. Yeah. So I went and signed up for that, did the course. Made a few short films from there. I had two very, very interesting experiences, which kind of, I think, shaped what I wanted to do going forward. So I actually spent some time working as an intern on the Crime Watch Roadshow.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I'd love to dig out the episodes, because I actually do make a cameo in one of the reconstructed crime things.
Nice.
But I think the thing that struck me the most about watching about working in the Crime Watch Roadshow was, like, bearing in mind, you're like thinking, I'm in the BBC. How cool is this? This is what we're talking about. We're getting that. They were all so miserable. I could have literally been in any office in the world, and they were just so, like, didn't want to be there, didn't want to be doing it. And I'm there thinking to myself, well, that's cool, but like, go do something else then. Like, I mean, you're working in a job that people dream of doing, even though they may not fully understand what you guys do. There's certainly some very talented and very enthusiastic people who would probably like to have a pop at this. Just move yourself along and go and do, whatever it is that you want to do. But with the B, people just stick and they never leave. And from there, I was just like, I don't want to be involved in this. I could be working in in a supermarket. I'd probably be earning similar money, and I'd probably be hanging out with cooler people.
Right.
And then the other thing was I worked on a feature film called The Reverend. Was not the Reverend, The Reverend, and that was an interesting experience in terms of on-set egos and
Right.
all that kind of thing, because it wasn't a multi-million production budget by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of the egos were kind of the behind the scenes people, and it's just like, again, fundamentally, whatever you think you're doing, you're basically just doing a regular job.
Yeah.
When it all boils down to it, we're turning up, we're collecting our paychecks, and we're going home, right? Great that you're a costume designer or a makeup artist or whatever the hell it is that you're doing, but you're just turning up and you're doing a job like any other person. But it was interesting, like the difference between stars as well. So we had Shane Ritchie of EastEnders fame was in it, and he plays this drugged up lunatic. And fair play, probably best part of the whole film. He was brilliant, right? But he finished in EastEnders shooting. Let's say it was on the Friday, so he just wrapped up finishing for shooting for the week. Drove to Cardiff to be on set for a midnight to 8 a.m. shift, right? He was buggered.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
knackered, right? That man was still signing autographs for the local people, even though he was ruined. Now, that is somebody who I've got a lot of respect for. There's something else funny about that, because I happened to... We were shooting in a pub in Ely, and for those of you who don't know Ely, Ely's a fairly rough area in Cardiff, one of the roughest areas of Cardiff. So I happened to mistakenly mention to a member of my family that we were having Shane Ritchie come and be filmed at this location, but the pub was staying open because they couldn't afford to pay for the pub to shut, and they were filming external scenes and all that kind of thing. So I'm out there doing a bit of security. All of a sudden, this car pulls up, and almost every single member of my family gets out. They don't get out normally dressed. They get out like as if they're dressed like they're going to the Ritz.
Yeah,
to go into a pub in Ely, and someone goes, "Oh, you can tell somebody told them what was going on," and I'm just there shitting myself. Oh God. And then on the flip side of things, you got someone like Tamer Hassan. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Tamer Hassan?
No, I don't think so.
He's been in. He was like a background actor on the Layer Cake and stuff. He does have fans. I'm not going to say that he doesn't have fans, but I had no idea who he was. I wouldn't have known him if I'd fallen over him. I knew who Shane Ritchie was.
Yeah.
But this guy turns up on set. Day one, he's all right. Day two arrives. We turn up at this venue, so it's like a manor house down in Dufferin. Really nice place, and it's got a barn next to it, but it's not like a barn full of goats and stuff. It's a converted barn. It's got it's got a pool table in there. It's got settees and all that kind of thing. So that's where we're going to put Tamer Hassan. So he walks into it and he's like, "I ain't staying in here. I'm a Hollywood effing actor. Who the hell do you think you people are?"
God.
And then like because we'd rented the barn, and we'd rented one of the other place. There was like a place where all the people who were working on the shoot were staying. And he wanted to be kept in the main house where the people who actually owned the premises were. They're like, "No, you're joking. I ain't having him in there." And you're just like, it's, for the love of God, man, right? It's a £350,000 film. We ain't going to be sticking you in an off-site Hilton.
Yeah.
What did you think when you were signing up for this thing? Blows my mind. That blows my mind that anybody can be like that, just in general.
egos.
It's
There are
mad.
egos in wrestling as well, so there's no difference.
No, I know. But saying that, that barn is probably a lot nicer than a lot of the places that boys have stayed at over the years.
Oh, fair enough. So, you showed me something before we actually press record. Would you like to show that off? So you see what you're doing right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So this is, I'm currently in the process of setting up a new animation company.
Yep.
And it's called Hollow Pixel Studios. And we're working with a company called Poke Studio, good old John Ball, on a new animation. It's going to be a kids animation, which is about a guy who gets sucked into an 80s video game. It's called Ungameland. And this is a little clip from some of the early start work that we're doing on it. Hopefully it'll start up. So that's one of the characters who's going to be in it. But I think when you start seeing some of the work coming off the guys, there's John Ball and Chris McFall, who are the animators on it. And actually, just to put another shout out there while I do, we are actually looking for animators. So if somebody watches this, they've got knowledge of Blender and how to use it, please do give me a shout. We are looking for people. We want to build up the Welsh animation industry. We want Welsh people to be in our little group. Please give us a shout. If nothing else, we'll put your phone number aside, and when the time comes, we can give you a call. But yeah, that's all very, very exciting. So we'll hopefully get that constructed. We're constructing a full pilot episode at the moment, and then I've got the small job of trying to sell it to somebody, which should be an interesting experience. But hopefully coming to Netflix, Amazon Prime, or anyone who will actually give us money to do it in the future.
Oh, that snippet there, that looks cool. You can appreciate everything that's gone into it. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
I might even watch it. Screw it, because I'm a massive kid. I'm sure my little girl would watch it as well if it ever comes out.
Well, I think that's the kind of general premise behind it, is that when you do see it, yeah, obviously the kids are hopefully going to enjoy it, but there's going to be enough 80s and 90s gaming references in it.
Oh, okay.
That's so.
Yeah.
So
nice.
So I think it's going to be quite fun. I'm looking forward to getting it out there, and amongst all the other things that are coming. There's so many big things coming. Again, I don't want to bore everybody, but keep an eye out. Have a look at Ungaming Land on the old Tinternet, on the old Google. There's a whole page devoted to it. You can see some of the character drawings and all that kind of exciting stuff. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, good luck with all of that, sir.
Thank you, mate.
Last question. We're going to talk about mental health now. Seeing as it is Mental Health Week in the UK, I thought this would be appropriate. And what a time for you to come on as well.
Yeah,
that was fate as well. So, like I said, this week in the UK, it is Mental Health Week, where everybody, tries to raise awareness for mental health, especially like through the lockdown, through the COVID pandemic. It's everybody's mental health has gone.
Yeah.
I'd imagine it's because everybody's had a lot of time to think, and they haven't really been able to do much and overthinking stuff. And it can, somebody who suffers with mental health, as my viewers will know, it can get dark. It can get dark, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So there we go.
There is, and hopefully we're providing a little bit of that. So specifically with what I'm doing, Mental Health UK, and this has kind of been done with my workplace. That I'm not going to mention what my workplace is, just in case it gets me in trouble, because I don't know whether I'm allowed to or not. But we're part of Mental Health UK is a section called Bloom, and it's specifically focusing on young people's mental health. And I think that the great thing about my job is, I've been able to work from home, and I think for some people that works. I'm lucky that I've got quite a busy household, so I've got my partner who makes me laugh. Her grandfather lives with me, so I've got plenty of discussions about the latest goings on in the football. I've got my cat, I've got my dog, and I'm a pretty much nowadays quite an internal person anyway. So, but I think what came to my attention an awful lot, because I'm, like I say, I'm working from home, but I'm still in contact with a lot of the people who were working in the place with me. I think the impact that it's had, specifically on the younger people, has been quite stark. And I think a lot of the reason for that is, and I'm just sort of like, going from my experience, this isn't the one. Mental health is never a one size fits all thing. It's a conglomeration of different things. But what I've definitely seen is young people who perhaps live on their own, for example. So there's been quite a few of them, both male and female. Obviously, normally they'd be out seeing their friends, maybe even looking to get a partner, and they don't have people to talk to from one week to the next, and particularly if you're working a job where you don't get that opportunity to chat to people throughout the day, maybe like one call after another or something like that. And it's been difficult for them, and it's worn them down. And feeling sorry for them is the wrong kind of word, but you really empathize where they're coming from and how difficult it must be, because I feel lucky in the sense of what I've had around me to kind of shield me from all this stuff. So I think with the Bloom side of things, I think it couldn't have come along at a better time, when we really do need to support young people's mental health as much as we can. And so what I'm attempting to do is, and this will be my first I maybe crap at video games in almost a year. So we're doing a one-off special. It's the game DuckTales on the Nintendo Entertainment System, which has long been lauded as one of the top 20 that's ever existed. I was able to beat it when I was a young kid. Can I still beat it? That is the question. I'm not going to do any practice. I'm just going to walk in there completely fresh and see whether I can beat the game. So it's a 5-thing challenge. So my 5 things is, DuckTales has 5 levels. I've got 5 lives to do it. Can I do it? I'm not even sure. I had somebody contact me earlier because I was feeling all confident about this. I was like, I beat DuckTales before, I'd be fine. And somebody who saw my message messaged me over Facebook, and they were like, "Oh, DuckTales, that was really hard." And I was like, "Was it? Oh God." I thought it was all right. Oh my God, I'm gonna die after 3 levels. I'm gonna be humiliated in front of everybody. So yeah, it's going to go out. I've got the fundraiser all set up. We're already 20% of the way towards our target. Thank you guys so much. You've done it. Andrea, Chris Recall, Liz, and that spooky guy, Anonymous, the one with the mask. Anonymous has made a donation. So thank you very much, Anonymous. Yeah. So all those people, if you like, I don't expect miracles, and I've not put a massive target on it. If you can chuck in a quid, I'll be very, very grateful for that. So hopefully we'll hit the target, and hopefully I won't make myself, in the words of Beers and Beatdowns, look like a kipper.
What he said, as they say. But hopefully you raise money like you have done. Hopefully you continue to raise money for mental health, especially for the younger kids. I would say as well, the mental health is on the rise for the kids as well, especially them going through all their changes. And like you said, they're not able to interact with their friends, they're not able to sort of get with somebody, if you will. It's sad. It's sad. Like I said, somebody who experiences problems with mental health, anxiety, depression. It's not nice to see like 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
No,
they shouldn't be. And I think personally, kind of, whatever. I think social media is a big problem. It's funny that this goes on social media and all that, but I would say social media is a big factor.
I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Right. Oh, right. Like you say, this is going out on social media, and all of us use social media. I use social media. I use it to promote Console Yourself and all that kind of thing. But all of us are acutely aware that social media, in various guises, is a really, really negative and terrible thing.
Oh God, yeah.
And we haven't, as adults, yet found the balance of how we're going to cope with the fact that it is such a negative impact on everybody. We don't quite know how to, on the one hand, do the stuff that we need to do, and on the other hand, kind of close it down in a sense. I think the pressure on young people, that the fact that, you know, I said that I suffered from bullying, right? And my time in school was god awful, right? And I dealt with it, like I said, you know, Cayman and Bassie, you know, got bigger and beat people up. I went into myself, right? So now you could pretty much chuck any insult at the world at me, and mean it, and it won't matter. I just don't care. I'm like a rock now. There's bugger all that faces me. But I can only imagine how much more terrible that whole scenario would have been if I couldn't escape it. Like if it was buzzing through on my phone every 5 seconds, you know, if somebody was sending me a picture of me, you know, with derogatory stuff written all over it, you know, and it's always happened. It always will happen. I think until technology develops to the point where, you know, and the stuff that they can do now is incredible, but you know, where they can actually, it's intelligent enough to filter it out straight away. Until we reach that stage, my thing I would say to any young people watching it, if you're picking on somebody, honest to God, right, you've got no idea what damage you're causing them long term. You know, no concept. And it may seem funny, and you may think they should get over themselves. And you know, I get that a lot of people can't take a joke nowadays, and we've all gone very woke, and it's all perhaps to a lot of people a little bit too much. But when you personally go after somebody and you personally look to say things to them that can cause them damage, you cause them damage when you're looking at them, right? But you're also causing them damage when they're 40.
Yeah.
You know, you do not understand the long-term implications of what you're doing. I know I've had long-term implications of it, and it's stuff that I have taken 30 years to work on, you know, 30 years to work on, and I still haven't fundamentally fixed everything that it's caused. I'll keep trying. I won't say I'll get to the end of it, of all of it, but I'll give it everything that I've got. But honestly, honest to God, people, think about what you're doing.
Yeah. You never know what that person is going through.
No.
It's the simple things, and then that's, you know, why the suicide rates are so up as well, especially in children, kids as well. It's disgusting. It is. It shouldn't be happening at all, but
yeah,
you know, I don't know. It just happened. So we're gonna end this on a high.
Yes.
We've done a social need to know. We've done the mental health. You know, we spoke about that and what you're going to be doing. So good luck with that as well.
Thank you, mate.
Your best. Fan questions. You have a fan question. Wait. Yeah.
I've been waiting all my life for a fan.
You can buy it from B&Q if you really want to know that as well.
What did my partner say?
Well, I don't want to know. So this is from Mark Woman Trimble.
Hey, you got a level, Trimble.
Oh yeah, everybody's happy when he asks questions. He asks the good questions, I think. So he's asking you, what would you consider to be the greatest achievement in your Celtic wrestling career, and why?
This is probably going to be a no, yeah, it's going to be a fairly simple one. I'm a guy that never thought that they could be a professional wrestler by any way, shape, or form. It was sheer bloody dogged determination due to a life event that made me have a go at it. I didn't think that I would ever be any good at it. It turned out that there were aspects of it that I was good at, some aspects that I wasn't so good at. But the idea that I would ever become a champion was so far outside of my mindset. I don't even know where I would begin. And when I won the interactive championship, when Cayman decided to put the belt on me, the world championship wasn't actually in the company. It was actually with Johnny Storm traveling the world. So I went into the main event, and that's something that I never ever thought. I had a program with Johnny the Body, which was such a relief. It's such a relief. Working with Johnny is such a relief. Johnny, what do? We do this, this, and this. Thank you very much. I was like mega green and having to call matches for other people, and then you meet up with Johnny the Body. It's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Thank you, God.
Just work a wrist lock for the whole match. That was it. 15 minutes worth of wrist lock, sorted, easy.
And and Bassey put me over, and that was a decent match. Me and Bassey. I felt sorry for him actually, because he had a lot of his door mates who turned up to watch the show, and he's gonna job to me. So I had to make it as like I spent the whole first section of the match just representing how much stronger and better and badder, and then we cheated like crap to get the belt off him, But I always remember driving home with the belt sat on my lap. And Ed Bailey was next to me, and he said, "Oh, you must feel like gold." And I was just like, I really do. And I held that belt for quite a number of months and did so many title defenses. And this is a guy who was so badly asthmatic he couldn't play sport in school. So
nice.
So it's that title victory and winning the best international film at the Marina del Rey Film Festival for retail. Those two things, they're just irreplaceable, because I didn't think I'd get to either of them, and I did. And I'm so grateful for everyone who was either involved in Celtic or involved in my film career for the contribution that they've made, because they made my dreams come true. Simple as that.
Nice. It's a very good answer. Well done. So that concludes today's Rambles. John, thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to just shout out or promote or anything before we go?
Yeah, Chris Recall, come back. The times happen now, man. You can't keep hiding from the inevitable. I will keep asking you every week until I finally see you in Pro Wrestling Carnage.
There you go. So, this has been my guest, Jonathan Lloyd James of Console Yourself. I have been the beer drinking, heavy metal listening, old headed broad of CueBall. Remember to go to ferryglenbrewery.co.uk, get some beers to watch the next episode of Rambles, and type in Rambles in the checkout to get 10% off. Stay safe, stay positive, catch you in the next one. Hashtag.
Oh, am I supposed to say something? Oh, bugger.
Hashtag, yeah.
Go get beers. That's the thing.